welcome everybody. My name is Angelika Frey-Oldenburg from the German Development Organization, GIZ, and I'm heading this wonderful global program on cultural and creative industries on behalf of the German Federal Ministry of Economy and Development. This project has the aim to promote employment and income perspectives for creatives. Currently, we are active in 6 partner countries within the MENA region and in Sub-Saharan Africa. Some of you are exactly from the countries like Kenya, like South Africa, like Senegal. We are also in the MENA region in Jordan, Iraq, and in Lebanon. In our program, we implement together with the German Goethe-Institut because cultural and creative industries goes together, and the German Goethe-Institut is implementing a lot also on the cultural side. This webinar today is the second webinar forming part of the webinar series. It calls 3 Deep Talks about Web3. So the series is our first activity in the frame of the recently initiated Creative Economy Alliance, which was launched successfully last week. I see 1 or 2 participants who were also there, and also 2 or 3 who also participated in the first webinar. But coming back to the Creative Economy Alliance, together with the solution for youth employment of the World Bank, we have joined forces to kick off this Creative Economy Alliance to build partnership, share knowledge, collaborate on future projects to create employment for creatives, especially also in the digital world. If you are interested in this alliance, please find the link posted in the chat. I think Heike or Kira will post it. Today's event is part exactly of this partnership and offers and invites to a joint learning experience or journey with regard to Web3. Last week, we received a general overview of the Web3 by Bridget Greenwood. By the way, if you could not make it last week, you might have a look at the recording. We will share also in the link to our YouTube channel in the chat as well. Today, we deep dive into the topic Policy Meets Web3 Community. And we have estimated guests who share insights of their fields of expertise. 2 very famous and successful NFT artists representing the Web3 community level. It's Dada. I only say Dada. I don't know your last name. They told it to me, Boipelo from Kenya, but I'm not quite sure if this is right pronounced.
Boipelo is great. You said it well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Hello, Dada. Great to meet you. And also we welcome Ralph Khoury. I hope this is also rightly pronounced. Ralph is from Lebanon, living in Great Britain, and also a phenomenous NFT artist. Then we have in the room Lara Assi, an NFT architect in London, and wonderful that you found the time to bring your expertise in. And of course, Tom Michael Kay, you're an educational expert from Australia, working for the UNICEF's Generation Unlimited project. And I think this speaker constellation is promising a lot. And I'm really excited because we think there will be a lot of illuminating conversations on which you, all the participants, be invited to join in, whether you are an expert or no. I think this is a new topic, and we are talking with experts, but we can also ask questions, whatever they are. The final webinar of this series on Web3 is next week, and it is dedicated to women in Web3, called Unleashing Underrepresented Voices with NFT artists from Jordan and Kenya. Don't miss it. Well, to sum up, our intention today is to contribute, and not only today in general, with deep talks to gain more insights for a wider audience into this exciting emerging market and its potential for youth employment as well. So please be invited to use it actively as a learning experience for yourself. And now I will stop talking and will hand over to my team members Heike Pratsch and Kira Schmieg, who developed this webinar series and further activities in the field. Thank you so much for everyone who is participating. Again, it will be recorded, so even though if not everyone can join, and even though today maybe there are not millions of people, because usually it should interest a lot of creatives and also organizations. However, it will be disseminated also on different channels. Thank you so much, and over to you, Heike and Kira.
Thank you. Yeah, also very warm welcome from my side. And today, yeah, we would really like to explore, like the title says, policy beats community. And like the core key questions we would like to touch are like the skills development within the sector, the chances for youth employment, but not minder important, I think, is also looking at the regulatory landscape or looking at the frame, what is necessary and where there are interactions possible between policy / international cooperation, international organizations and the community. So that's why we have these different diverse representatives here. So it is meant really, like Angelika said, as a deep talk, like the title says. So we share really honest thoughts, and these are personal opinions, of course. They are not representing here German government or any other governmental structure. So we really want to go into very honest and deep conversation. So feel free to ask your questions, like Angelika said, later on. And yeah, we really will hear now community side perspectives, supporter side perspectives, and the perspective of international organization. And before we enter into the space of Web3, we would like to give some explanations of the most common abbreviation and terms, as we were not sure if everybody is really familiar with all those names like Web3, blockchain, NFT, and so on. So I hand over to Kira now. She will give a very short introduction, but don't feel scared also to ask questions. I mean, I like this term, like saying there's no stupid question, only stupid answers. And we are all in a very learning field. I have to admit for myself that I'm learning every day. Every conversation opens up my brain with this exciting space of Web3. So I hand over to Kira to give an introduction, and then we introduce again our estimated guests. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Angelika. Thanks so much, Heike. As they already introduced me, I will give a little introduction on the content. So in this episode, we will explore the world of Web3 communities, which encompasses groups and individuals who utilize Web3 technologies, with blockchain being the main infrastructure. We will shine a light on the revolutionary concept of non-fungible tokens, so short NFTs. But what is an NFT? An NFT is a digital certificate that is stored on a blockchain on a secure distributed database, allowing creators from around the globe to share their digital content on NFT marketplaces. The blockchain's transparency ensures that the creation, bidding, buying, and reselling of digital assets are visible to all participants. So the digital assets are NFTs. This transparency not only facilitates secure property rights, but also protects ownership within the system. Our first webinar was dedicated to that, NFTs and IP rights. With profiles linked directly to Twitter accounts on the marketplaces, Web3 communities foster vibrant communication among the members. And for creatives who are frequently at risk of intellectual property theft, the clear allocation of ownership provided by NFTs is a significant milestone. This technology serves as a secure form of protection, showcasing the creator's ownership of their digital assets transparently. One of the remarkable aspects of blockchain technology is that it is fully open source as well, allowing anyone with programming skills to build disruptive applications. However, ambiguity arises when we consider that cryptocurrency aspect of Web3. So to mint an NFT and participate in the financial ecosystem of Web3, one needs to use cryptocurrency. Obtaining and trading with cryptocurrency is still not a straightforward practice in a lot of countries. And the conversation from cryptocurrency to fiat currency, so to our currency, and vice versa, are where many states encounter challenges and conflicts. So policy considerations surrounding cryptocurrencies and their regulation framework have become a focal point of discussion within the MENA region and African countries and all around the world. Throughout this episode, we will delve into the intricacies and structural advantages and hurdles, exploring the evolving relationship between Web3 and policy frameworks. Our esteemed panel of experts will share insights and engage in thought-provoking discussions to shed light on this fascinating intersection. Thank you for joining us on this insightful journey. Thanks everyone for being here today. Let's dive deep into the dynamics of the world of Web3 and its impact on society. I am delighted to hand over again to Heike, and she will introduce our guests for today.
All right, yes. So I'm struggling with the slide sharing though, but I will introduce quickly and then we show a slide of our guests here where we have some pictures also, because we have really very famous guests, very famous NFT artists. There is Ralph, who is also called Ginger Potter, and he's a community builder and famous artist from Lebanon. And there's Dada, also an artist, also but a marketing specialist as well. And she's a co-founder of Akina Dada. Akina Dada is kind of like an African blockchain education association. Perhaps she will explain that a little bit later on. And then we have Lara Assi, and she is helping the Web3 startups to scale up and has as well a great knowledge of what is going on in Web3 with regulations and business ventures worldwide. And then finally, and not least, we have Thomas Michael Kay, who is working for UNICEF's Generation Unlimited, which is a public-private youth partnership platform that aims to skill and connect the world's 1.8 billion youth to employment, entrepreneurship, and social impact opportunities. So a big vision. And that's where we want to interact between each other, because I think that unites us. We all have a big vision for a better future. And I will just share quickly, because I had a problem, a slide with you where you can have a short view on to what are, for example, some artwork. Can you see that? Please tell me. Can you see the sharing?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes. Okay, so you see Dada, because Dada, you are also a self-portrait artist, right? So you bring yourself into artwork. Quite exciting. Absolutely, exactly. And Ralph, I saw also your very interactive movements of figures, very interesting pictures. And you're also on many TV shows. So you're really one of the community builders in Lebanon, right? Ralph?
Yeah, I got featured on. That's the thing. I go on interviews and like talk about Web3 on a regular basis. So yeah.
Yep, super. And then there's also Lara Assi, like I said before, Web3 startup, living in UK, but coming originally from Lebanon. Lara. And also Tom Kay from UNICEF.
Thank you.
And we prepared you that slide. We will put that into the chat, so you have all LinkedIn connections and everything on that slide. So that's for you as audience later on. So I'm stopping that screen sharing and stopping anyhow, I think. All right, so let's come back. Kira, you start the first round.
Yes, so to warm up, we just dive right into the first question, and we like to have questions for all of our guests. And the first I want to start with is Dada. So Dada, just let's dive directly in. You work in Web3 communities in Kenya, and you entered Web3 even before the hype in 2021. And you were already successful back then with your art. And what keeps you engaged with the community? What keeps you motivated? What keeps you going?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. And the Web3 communities are very active and collaborative in nature. I think that's what draws me into them most. What I've experienced is a collective of people who are very passionate and driven about solutions and just scaling and development of this new creator economy. And that's what has motivated me not only to be like the spearhead within my community, but also position myself in a way that I can make space for people who come from my community and many other communities. So that's what has driven me to stay within the Web3 space. And it has been successful and it continues to be successful. People like you, Kira and Heike and the GIZ team, you make space for us and the opportunities are infinite. So yeah, that's just one of the motivations as to why I'm here.
Thank you so much, Dada. Thank you so much. So the voice hearing from your community, I would like to hand over to Ralph. And Ralph, as we already heard in the introduction, you're a well-known NFT artist in Lebanon, and not only Lebanon, also worldwide. And you give several talks, also talking to authorities about the development of Web3. How do you ensure in those conversations, and how do you ensure in those conversations that that you can explain what Web3 is for? So also talking to people outside the bubble.
So yeah, this is something that we're trying to tackle basically here in Lebanon, because we're trying to make people understand why this image on your phone is going to be worth anything and all that. And basically, the way we're trying to do that is through like different exhibitions here in the country, so we can showcase this technology in a familiar setting. So that's what we're trying to do. So I reach out and as well, like I go up on TV and I explain it in a very like basic way to the interviewer and the people at home, that at the end of the day, we've been putting our work on Instagram, our digital work on Instagram, and we were getting likes in return and exposure. But now it's the same concept where you put it on a website where you can sell it just like any other artwork. So someone can own it, just like someone can own a painting, a physical painting. So that's the basic way of how I try to explain it to most people. Also, we're trying to like talk with the government. I did have a meeting with the Minister of Finance here. He is very there. That's the thing. Everyone is very interested in crypto here in my country, but sadly, the government doesn't want to go for it because the government has a lot of issues right now, especially when it comes to money and the banks and the illiquidity of the banks and all that. So it doesn't want to promote it because of politics and all that. I don't want to get into it. But regardless of that, we're trying our best to showcase the benefits of this. For me, I'm an artist that I was trying to be successful in my country with my art. And it was never happening because I don't really fit into the mold and the trend of the art scene here in my country, where like there's a very few small pool of art enthusiasts and collectors here in my country. So I branched out through this technology. I discovered it, and I was like, this is a great way to find my niche that could be anywhere on the globe rather than try to find it in my tiny country that already has a tiny pool of collectors and art enthusiasts. So that's the big benefit that was for me, and I'm trying to like give that same. It changed my life, and I want to try to give that same benefit to other artists as well. So we're trying to move it along through galleries, through exhibitions, through all of these activations that we try to do here in the country and also outside of the country as well. So yeah.
Thanks a lot, Ralph. I think we will get into the conversation how to dialogue with policymakers a bit later. So it's nice that we already glimpsed that conversation. Thank you.
All right, I take over. And Lara, I would like to ask you as an entry statement. You are supporting many startups in Web3 to scale up. And if you would name the most prominent challenge which startups are facing in that space, what would it be?
Thank you so much for having me. Really touched my words what Ralph said, because I'm Lebanese and I know the struggle, and I love that he finished his intro with giving back to the community, because it's not about only gaining this fandom or making money. It's also about educating other people in order to enter the space and be able to monetize their work. So thank you very much. To be honest, I think the hurdles that I've seen Web3 startups face differ from country to country, because if I don't like the West-East narrative, but let's talk about West and East. Now, we can see the innovation happening in the West, in Europe, in America. State-of-the-art innovations are happening. A lot of investments, billions and billions of dollars have been pumped into Web3. That's even before the hype. I mean, in 2021, everything was going crazy, but I think that what's really something that I can touch on that is faced in both East and West is the actual literacy, Web3 literacy. This is what I want to say, because a lot of the skills are actually very transferable. And in any Web3 company, you find departments, and these departments have sub-departments and whatnot. So it's almost like any other company. However, Web3 literacy, which is understanding the technicalities of Web3, understanding Web3 technologies and how they will bleed into industries, what Web3 technologies to adopt and what Web3 technologies to wait on. Blockchain developers, for example, the language itself is a bit new. So you have the user interface and user experience. You have actually translating these technical jargons into English for people to understand. So I think that the startups, what they are facing is not something that they can fight on their own. They really need the help of organizations to start initiatives in order to onboard people into Web3, or at least help them transition from Web2 to Web3. Although Web3 is a very community-driven industry, I'd say, but I really think that help from other organizations is much needed. It's in dire need, especially in developing countries and countries that have no access to Web3, to some Web3 verticals such as NFTs. You see a lot of countries banning NFT marketplaces or crypto exchanges. So there are a lot of barriers. There's a lot of hurdles that Web3 startups face, and I don't think they can face it all alone.
Thank you very much, Lara, for explaining that, also the broader picture of it. And I think that leads and bridges quite well to you, Tom. You're working for the UNICEF's Generation Unlimited program, which I said before is a public-private youth partnership platform that aims to skill and connect exactly youth to employment and entrepreneurship possibilities. And one of these underlined goals, which is written there, is connect every student learner to the internet. So I was wondering, Tom, how much are these people already doing the step towards Web3? How is your impression working with youth in African countries and other Middle East countries where you engage with? And what would that mean when we talk about Generation Z, which is in the Western terms like this generation who kind of grow up with the internet? So what is your experience there? Can you explain that a little bit to us? What's your connection with Web3, if at all, in the program?
Yeah, absolutely, Heike. And before I do, I just want to first say thank you to you, to Kira, to Angelica for having us all here today. It's great to be in this forum and be talking about such an important issue, along with great panelists like Dada, Ralph, and Lara. So thank you for having us and for being the catalyst for this conversation. It's really important. I guess I want to build a little bit on what Lara has said. She talked about the diversity of companies and countries as well. And I think you've said it yourself. We have 1.8 billion youth aged 15 to 24 in the planet. And so obviously a big thing really is the diversity amongst those. There are big differences between many different places. I live in Lusaka in Zambia, which is a particular place in Africa. Currently, I'm in Dhaka in Bangladesh, and the needs and the abilities and the exposures of youth in all of these different places range quite broadly. And I think I mean, just to put it into a little bit of context, I think there's a really increasing role for connectivity and potentially for Web 3.0. We have 1/5 of those 1.8 billion people globally are currently not in education, employment, or training. So these are youth who are looking for pathways to better livelihoods, better livings, and better skills. Out of the youth in the world, 77% who are employed are in the informal sector, and that rate is actually up to 97% of youth in lower and middle income countries. And creative industries tend to be really characterized by more informal and more non-regular employment. So we're seeing really high numbers of youth who this area should be of particular interest to. So I think there's quite an eager target market out there. There's also lots and lots of new jobs being created. So 85 million jobs are going to be displaced in the next for the next generation coming through. So 85 million of the jobs that exist now won't exist in the future. And so I think there's a lot of space for these youth to be operating in the Web 3.0 area. In terms of our program, our goal is really to support youth by meeting them where they're at. So if we're delivering a program in an urban slum within Dhaka, we will meet with the youth and we will design programs around what they are saying that they need in terms of better education, better employment opportunities, and better skills. Similarly, in other diverse areas. And so I think one thing that we have noticed is an increasing demand for this kind of skill. We know that entrepreneurship particularly is really big amongst youth today, more so than in generations past. And so equipping them with the skills that they can use to be creative through these Web 3.0 skills is really important. But not only that, as Lara said, these are transferable skills. So yes, we can equip them to engage in this particular area, but even better, as we equip them with these skills, we can actually equip them for better and more and different job opportunities throughout their life.
Thank you, Tom. Handing over to you, Kira, to open up the first round, I would say, of the questions of coming back to the skills issue, because we want to touch four aspects: skills, youth employment, and others. So, Kira, for you.
Yeah, this might be the perfect bridge Tom just gave us. We want to talk about skills you need and are required to make it in Web3, or to skills which are needed for young people in such a digital working landscape. So we're jumping a little bit from micro to macro level in this conversation, but I think this is a very rare opportunity. We have having our guests coming from such different points, but still aiming for the same goal. So Dada, when you see your journey in front of you, with which skills did you enter the space, and how did your skill set develop while being in the space for so many years?
Okay, yeah, that is a really good question, and I think Tom really touched on this, and I know it may sound a bit shallow, but some few of the skills that I did have then was, aside from marketing, is like I knew how to use a phone, and I knew how to use the internet, and I knew how to access all these spaces, including Discord and just the internet, basically, which is something that not too many people have access to here. And I'd like to say that a lot of the skills that I came into Web3 with were soft skills, like digital proficiency skills, like communication, being able to create content, being able to market, and as I advanced in Web3 and as an NFT artist, even without having much technical background or technical academic background, I ended up picking up many sophisticated IT skills, just learning about the blockchain, learning about what makes an NFT, learning about crypto, learning about everything that moves the community. And I think these are just some of the relevant skills that people will need to make space for in the future, because lack of these relevant skills can limit your opportunities. And if you can't catch up, then you will get left behind. And that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to get everyone either to reskill or upskill. And yeah, I think much of the relevant skills that I've learned have narrowed down to sophisticated IT skills and just a mix of digital soft skills and like proficiency, which is like language and how to communicate and just how to put myself out there and my identity forward. So that's how I have developed from just being someone who wanted to learn about what these images of monkeys are and just trying to find my way around opportunities. So I have, I think I've developed a lot of expertise just by being able to interact with the different softwares that are being developed, even the different communities that are working towards different solutions. So there's a lot you can learn skill-wise as you engage with different communities in the Web3 industry and landscape.
Thank you so much, Dada. So we hear the perspective of someone being a business venture yourself, developing through the space and developing your skills. And when we look on the other side, so Lara working with people working in Web3 and working with business ventures. Lara, in your time and in your conversations with multiple Web3 startups you worked with and Web3 enthusiasts you met, which skills do you find lacking a lot? Like, what are the pain points? Where do you work with the people you work with?
I think, to be honest, I did brush up on this on the first question, but I would like to dive into maybe the skills that Gen Z need to. I wouldn't say Gen Z. I would say the bigger picture. Let's talk about the bigger picture of things. First of all, if we look at this industry and the pinnacle of this industry, we haven't seen it yet. This is still very nascent, even though Web3 or blockchain or NFTs have been going on for a few years now. We haven't reached the pinnacle of this industry. Now, if we look ahead and foresee who is going to be leading this industry, it's Gen Z, first of all. Now, Gen Z have been born into technology. Like I myself, I will not disclose my age, but I lived before before the internet happened. So for me, that shift, and even if I grew up with technology all around me, my technical literacy, if I may, was limited to the things that I needed. While Gen Z are naturally born as digital creators. They are all content creators, if you think about it, because everyone's living on the internet, and that crystallized in COVID, where we saw how Gen Z are very much looking into. Gen Z are very much looking into Web3. Now, if I go back a little bit and talk about some statistics, half of Gen Z know what Web3 is. Around 40-something% of Gen Z are already using Web3 technologies, whether it's immersive technologies, NFTs, or crypto. So we have this appetite, this big appetite from Gen Z to actually dive into Web3. And now look at the creator economy. The creator economy is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It accounts for around 6.1% of the global economy. Just like a very nice fact that the creator economy that employs around 30 million people, the range of the age range is 17 to 24. So let's look at the power. We have the Gen Z ready. They have the appetite. We have the creator economy that is growing in crazy numbers and crazy compound annual growth rates. And then we have the economic power of Gen Z, which surprisingly is they are much stronger than all of the generations that came before us. They expect um, uh, I'd say the power to reach around 33 trillion by 2023. So this trinity of that appetite with the creator economy and that economic power is not harnessed anywhere. I mean, let's talk about any global initiative that is helping Gen Z harness this trinity, this very interesting trinity, and that's when we come to regulations. It always funnels down to regulations and legislations, because if there are no regulations and legislations put in place, a lot of organizations, and especially international organizations, will not adopt this industry, will not start diving into this industry, will not touch any initiative, because there are a lot of gray areas. So I don't think it's a matter of skills, because as Dada was saying, you have the soft skills and the hard skills, and in Web3 you can find a lot of jobs of opportunities that has nothing to do with coding or having a technical background. So I think the gap here is more of connecting this trinity with legislations and with global initiatives in order to facilitate Web3, or actually put Web3 on the global map.
Thank you so much, Laura. Again, so naturally, it's the perfect bridge to the next question I have for Ralph. Ralph, when you look at your work in the communities and your conversation to enforce in the direction of policymakers, what skills are needed for better cooperation between those two entities?
With policymakers, but that's the thing. It's a debate really right now, because I feel, especially in my country, like the policymakers, there's already a debate how corrupted most of them are. So yeah, I don't know who to exactly talk to in like the government, but there is no incentive for them to actually change the status quo and like embrace cryptocurrency more. But yeah, in general, and there is this conversation as well when it comes to regulations, because a lot of governments, when they come into regulating something, especially something decentralized like this, they start implementing rules that the community might not be very behind. For example, like if we give like these regulatory powers to our own government here, they will probably fumble it up because they don't really understand it. But if we give it to like a foreign government, for example, like the United States government banned Lebanon from being able to use OpenSea, the biggest marketplace that is based in NFTs. So geopolitics came into that, and basically the regulations, even there in like this big Western country, didn't really help as much as well. So there is this debate between in the community: should regulation come in? Should regulation not be in this space? I feel like it should, but it's very difficult to identify the people that should put these regulations without like having some at the very least, some miscommunication between that regulatory power and the community that is already inhabiting the space. Having said that, though, like I said before, I feel like the skills that should be, from a community standpoint, the skills of basically being able to talk and to show the best things that the space has to offer. For me, what I do, I go up and I speak about this on a regular basis. I showcase the good things of Web3, because a lot of the space is full of like scams and things that most people see, the shallow part of it, basically, that most people see, and that also scares a lot of government from getting into it. So I don't know exactly like the skills when it comes to that, what you should have. For me, the skills that were very important where it was like talking publicly so you can represent your community, represent your country in different ways, and represent your art in the best ways possible. And that translates well when you're talking to policymakers. But from there, it really you need someone that's doing the policies that wants the incentive and wants the same goal as you, for more people to get into the NFT space. And sadly, so far I haven't seen it in our government, and like outside, we've already been burned already with OpenSea. So yeah, it's a very big topic that is still being debated on a lot in the space. So yeah, I hope my answer was satisfactory in some way.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you so much for that insight. And Tom, you are not a state representative, but still representing UNICEF, an organization, and your goal is to design educational practices, so in developing digital skill sets. So in this case, what needs to be done to ensure that young creatives have the knowledge and skills to leverage their career, or in this case, a Web3 and a Web3 career, or in general, having the digital skills to make it nowadays in the working landscape?
Thanks, Kira. That's a really good question, and I think there's probably two parts to the answer. What we often talk about when we're designing education programs at their simplest level is access and quality. So in terms of access, what we're talking about is ensuring that the kids all over the world, regardless of where they're located and their cultural background and their socioeconomic background, have access to the learning. So access can come in the form of traditional education. So in classrooms, it might come in the form of digital learning. It might come in the form of SMS messages, radio learning, so technology enhanced learning. There are lots of ways to provide access. So the first thing that we want to do is make sure that all children who want to have access to education are able to access it through one means or another. And that's where I go back to that first comment I made about the diversity of experience and making sure that that young kids have the ability, regardless of whether they're in remote areas of Kenya or in urban slums in Dhaka, have means to access education. And we really need to think about the different circumstances as we're designing programs to specifically reach these individuals with content. The second part is quality, and that comes down to making sure that the content that these young children can access, or these youth can access, is actually really good at conveying the information that they need in a way in which they can engage with the content. So Dada spoke earlier about how she had been equipped with digital skills, and that was something that was really useful to her throughout her career, but just more broadly in life. And I think that that's a really important piece, providing youth with high quality access to digital skill making. That's really important, and so there's a foundation that comes first, because the fact that we're logged in on our laptops or our phones, as the case may be, using the internet, a lot of kids don't actually have the access to a computer. They don't know how to turn it on. They don't know how to get onto Teams. So really building education systems that they can engage with is important, and making sure that they have quality learning materials to navigate all of that stuff before they get into really the technical depths of Web 3.0. And that is another leap. I mean, even for me, I'll frankly say I'm not an expert in Web 3.0. I'm an education expert, but not a Web 3.0 expert. And so, but luckily, I have been equipped with the skills to be able to continue to guide myself through learning. So I was able to do the research with the tools I had online with my computer to learn more about 3.0 to prepare for this talk. And so I think really equipping youth with the skills to do that, and then the technical knowledge about Web 3.0. So being able to package information about cryptocurrency, about blockchain, about decentralized Salesforce, these sorts of things, in a way that is easy for youth who don't have the more sophisticated understandings that Ralph, Dada, and Lara have is really important, because it's a complex subject, and we can't just assume that we can throw everybody in right at the deep end. It's a gradual, staged approach to understanding these concepts and equipping them to succeed in this world.
Thank you, Tom. And I would like to open up the next round a bit, because we have touched already quite a lot of aspects like skills, community, frameworks. But coming back, Dada, again, a little bit to the community aspect, because we heard that community is basically the space to learn, right? You jumped into the Web3. I heard from all of you with self-learning attitude, like Tom just explained, that we are equipped with that spirit of self-learning. But I know, Dada, that you're dedicating a lot of time into educational work within the communities. And there's this famous word DAO coming up. Perhaps you can explain a little bit what these decentralized autonomous organizations within this Web3 community are, and what is this Akina Dada, what you called, which has this educational aspect. So jumping the next round a bit on what the community level is all about within Web3, why we hear so much about community, and how is that related also to what you would need from states and so on to nourish those communities, if that is possible. But Dada, please explain first, what is a DAO and what is Akina Dada? Sounds quite interesting.
Awesome. So I'm not gonna go around too much. DAOs are decentralized autonomous organizations. And what I say is that not all communities are DAOs, but all DAOs can be communities. And there's very many things that motivates Web3 communities specifically, but I like to categorize them in first, most of them are building solutions, and then from there, it's either they're money motivated or they're belief motivated, whereby many people are looking for either lucrative investments, they're looking for, the next big thing, the next $1 million project. And then there's the people who are more centered on what they believe in or what they think the community needs, or sometimes it can even be real life problems that just need to be done right now. And Akina Dada is not yet a DAO. It is a very active and engaging community, and it's built of creatives, developers, lawmakers, and just people who have insight on how we can come together to make this a more an easier place for people to engage in and for people to understand what's going on. And I would like to say that each and every type of community, whether it has a solution, whether it's money motivated or belief motivated, they have their own value, and it is value that is seen mostly within their community and the impact that they make, and they're not mutually exclusive. So I just wanted to highlight that. The backbone of most of these communities is collaboration and empowerment, and I'd also like to touch on just creating of opportunity. So we've spoken about employment and we've spoken about entrepreneurship, and I think Web3 communities really empower the nature of development and the nature of just bringing people together to build something bigger and beyond. It just takes a lot of consistency. It takes a lot of work, because now you have to not only build a solution, but you have to kind of make people understand why we need this, especially if they don't see it immediately. So it's a lot of work building a community. And as easy as it is to build a community, it is very easy and simple for communities to crumble, and it happens all the time within the Web3 industry. You see DAOs, you see organizations that lack structure and that lack consistency and transparency mostly. They don't really last long, and those are some of the things that kind of affect the trust and security people have in the blockchain and in these Web3 communities. So yeah, I hope I have responded well to the question. Yeah, I think those are my thoughts on Web3 communities and DAOs. Yeah.
Thanks, Dada. That's very interesting. And perhaps Ralph, is there anything more particular which is you as a community mover in Lebanon facing, especially with regard to your already mentioned framework conditions, right, which are not so favorable to some. I don't want to go into a detail as well, but is there anything specific you could add to that, or what you were saying, which is more like a Lebanese perspective? And then I would hand over to Lara, perhaps, to give a little bit of meta version on how to support communities.
Yeah. So basically, like, community is, I feel like, is the base of Web3 in general, and yeah, that's the thing that makes us stronger, I feel. So here in Lebanon, we've been when I started in the space, there were barely like 3 people in it, me included, that were talking about NFTs in general. And then that grew up to like around 600 to 1,000 people now, I believe. And it's because of the community that we've been trying to like build. And that brings me back to like regulations and all that. If you want something to change, you need a big number of people that is behind it, that wants to make it happen. So I feel communities are very important when it comes to that. We actually have a community meetup on Saturday. This Saturday, we do monthly meetups on a regular basis to make sure that the community, not just online, is connected and is together, but also physically. There will be like a more intimate rapport between community members than just like through a phone. We're actually sitting down with each other and talking about things and having a good night, all of us together, and all that. So community is a very big thing that I really believe in. And like I said in the beginning, I'm building this community of artists around me so we can all help each other, because there was a lot this idea of always want in Web2, you see this concept of like the influencer basically on top with all of their followers around them, basically clapping for them. But the thing is, what I feel like it's not the best model when it comes to like change and making things better and all that. I feel like when someone goes up, bringing the other people around them, their community around them, their artist community for me around them, with them up as well, is something that is very important. And that's the thing I feel communities mostly should focus on, and what we try to focus on. Bring all of us, everyone together, bring each other up, and teach each other different things, because we all have different skills. We all are seeing different things. So when you're part of a community, I feel we can all help each other reach. It's very essential, I feel. And I probably wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for the community that has supported me, and hopefully I'm able to support in the same manner back. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, as we want to open soon for the audience also to raise some questions, but still, as we have the title Policy Meets Community, just for you, Lara, and then Tom. Lara, you have been observing, of course, also from a meta perspective, being an enabler, and in the pre-conversation, you said also that Dubai is really moving forward. So what do you observe? Where are the trends going? Is there a country division where communities are looking at? Is there some visionary areas? What do you see is moving in there as an additional thought, what Dada and Ralph already explored from their, explained and explored from their own perspective of the national view? But what is the global view on it?
Absolutely. So I think it's good to separate Web3 communities from regulations. Now, they do not intersect with one another. I think that Web3 communities even prefer not to intersect with regulations at all, to be honest. But because there are a lot of global restrictions, we have to, negotiate or just, meet them halfway, because, which brings me back to the community. What is so different about Web3 is that community is, first of all, decentralized and empowered. And that's something that it's unprecedented, because all of what we knew, especially millennials, is centralization and capitalism. And we've grown up, I personally have grew up thinking that this is the world, this is the status quo. And then Web3, with decentralization and peer-to-peer interactions, have really changed the whole scene. And now you find communities and artists that are gaining, I wouldn't say followers, but growing their communities, because these people truly believe in that artist's mission and vision. not because they want to make, you know, a quick buck out of it, or they just want to flip NFTs. So maybe in 2020 we would have seen that because everyone was hyped up, like, I want to buy this NFT and flip it and make $10,000. But actually, if we dive into the decentralized communities of Web3, or the communities that have a decentralized ethos, they really believe in what they're buying and what they're investing in, and that's power itself. When you grow from 10 or 6, like Ginger Potter was saying, to, I mean, you're very humble, but you have a very big community, Ginger Potter. Everyone loves what you do. And look at the essence of the artwork that Ginger Potter did. I believe that he has based that on the suffering of Lebanese and specifically, and people in general. He portrayed some of these, the loneliness, the depression. All of these are things that we identify with as a community, but in the world of capitalism and centralization, we didn't find the space to actually share that and, you know, grow. So I think that with communities, this is what I just wanted to add, that every person in joining a community is not joining it for a quick buck. They're joining it because they really believe in the message and the added value as well that this community is going to get them, because NFTs can come with utilities. They don't have to be only artwork, which is something I respect. Of course, artwork is art. But I mean, even a lot of people who want to dive into the world of NFTs see a lot of beneficial utilities attached to these NFTs, whether it's a passive revenue, whether it's access to gated communities or certain, you know, intrinsic rewards. So it's really fascinating, the whole community aspect. Now, coming to regulations, absolutely. So Dubai really raced to be the first country to you know, have some legislations in place, and one of their very prominent sheikh also promised, you know, this innovation, or this Web3 industry, or the metaverse industry, as he said, is going to bring 40,000 jobs to nationals and whatnot. So it's job creation. It's also attracting international companies to be headquartered in Dubai, which is a win-win situation, to be honest, for that company. And especially that's something that a lot of companies struggle with, especially DAOs, as Dada mentioned, is where to register and how to operate. And these are one of many hurdles that Web3 companies face. So Dubai did really race into that. You'd be surprised that Saudi Arabia is spending billions and billions of dollars in innovative technologies, metaverse and Web3. They don't have any legislations yet, but they did appoint chief metaverse officers in some places, and they are also, so their their financing arm as well, the Saudi financing arm as well, is also allocating billions of dollars into the industry, into this industry. But other than Dubai and a couple of countries now, you don't have legislation in place. I'd say like 90% of all countries, it either do not have legislations, or they're fighting it, or you know, secretly fighting it. As Ralph was saying, there are a lot of issues tied into Web3, and the biggest one is losing control, and you know, the data not to be centralized in one place, or just some tech giants monetizing out of the data. This is, in Web3 communities, this is not allowed anymore. So you feel this revolutionary vibe of Web3, and you see it, I wouldn't say clashing, but starting to knock on the door of governments and legislation, saying that we're here, we are represented, our numbers are growing in a crazy pace, and something that needs to be done. So other in the Middle East, to be honest, other than Dubai having that legislation and regulation up and running, we are yet to see governments take that Web3 leap of faith.
Thank you, Lara. I think looking at also the audience and the time, that was clear that it's going to run away, the time. So I'm looking at you, Tom, perhaps as a last intervention from you as speaker, and then we would like to really invite the audience to raise their questions and just and be not such a big round, so you can just open your micro and raise your questions, or you, if you don't want to, you can put it into the chat. But before that, Tom, as we had the title Policy Meets Community, you have now this we talked about design-centered, how is it called? Human-centered design.
Human-centered design.
I started the wrong way. Human-centered design. So basically, that would be kind of of an act of human-centered design. You as an educational designer of big programs and international cooperation, what would be kind of these questions you would ask community representatives, which we have right now here in the room, in order to be able to convince donors, money givers to promote more programs in this field? Is there anything that comes up to your mind? I mean, you're not prepared perhaps for that question, but let's be spontaneous.
No, I wasn't, but that's okay, Heike. They're always the fun ones. There's, I'm not sure how to frame this as a question, but something that Ralph mentioned earlier just kind of sparked my interest. And let me preface it by saying people don't like change generally. It's really hard for everyone, particularly as they get older. They've learned a world, they've been educated in certain ways, they know how things work, and change can be really disruptive. And so it can be quite hard, and change is even harder for masses of individuals together than for individuals to do by themselves. So to drive one person to change, you can do. To drive big groups of individuals to change is really hard. And one of the things that makes it hard is people become afraid. And so linking that back to what Ralph was saying before, he mentioned in passing things like scams and people who are involved in these new niches, but don't have the most I guess the best interests of the communities and the technologies and the world at heart. I know that this is a very small minority. It's not large groups. There are clearly a lot of passionate people on this call. What's going through my mind is how can these amazing communities that are being built help to, on the one hand, increase the trust of governments, of policymakers, of general citizens out there about the changes that will be driven through this technology, and on the other hand, help to minimize and address the people who are doing these things which undermine that trust. I think that's a question. Sorry, Heike, if I haven't done that perfectly, but this is what's going through my mind. So I'm not sure if any of the other panelists have a response.
Okay, and I really would like to include the audience now. So please feel welcome to raise your questions. Like I said, just open the micro or raise your hand with Teams, then we can address you. But the floor is open. We are not going to ask any more questions, so please interact with each other. All right. Lara, I saw you, Ralph. Okay, go ahead.
If there's someone else that wanted, Lara, would you like to?
And there's a question in the chat.
No, the floor is to you. Yeah, the floor is to you.
Yeah, I just feel like when it comes to these scammers and all that, the thing is, in this digital landscape, we should, like the people that are trying to build and to actually benefit the community and all that, should help hold these people accountable. And I feel like a lot of people in the space would rather just stop interacting with these very toxic people and just focus on what they're doing and all that, which is great. But the thing is, the newer people that are coming into the space, they're just seeing these like toxic, bad influences and just like following them regardless, because they don't know in the space and all that. It takes time to actually understand the landscape when you enter the space. And but like I said, regulations, like it's another can of worms that can be difficult to tackle because it can stifle a lot of genuine creators in the space as well. But when it comes to like people that are provenly scamming people, I feel like they should be held accountable in court of law. When it comes to that, that's something that I feel would be beneficial. But again, when you start doing that, who knows how much governments can outreach to the extreme, as they usually do, as we know they do. So that's the whole debate of the space. That is, how can you do that while keeping it decentralized as it is right now? So I feel like the community holding people accountable is a step towards that. but again, it's not as effective as you want it to be. These scammers will just do anything to keep on trying to steal and to scam people. They can just delete their account and do another account and then start over from zero. There are so many ways they can just keep on. Literally, they have no shame, so they can just keep on doing it until someone stops them, basically. So yeah, it is a difficult question, but yeah, that's more or less what I
I
can say
would,
about.
I would love to add. I would love to add to what you said, Ralph, especially that we're both Lebanese, and so that's something interesting, Tom, for you to know is that how can we approach governments as communities while our government has actually robbed us from our money. So our government, and the corruption that we have and the illiquidity that's been happening, has been happening for 3 to 4 years, and this has been imposed on all of the Lebanese people and expats. So there are millions of dollars that are nowhere to be found, and that's the government is directly involved. They're not even trying to hide it. So it's a bit skeptical for us as community, as a Web3 community, to go back and to tell our government, hey, what do you think about Web3? It's just it doesn't make sense. While on the other hand, in other countries, and that's why I was saying that each country on a national level, it's totally sort of the frameworks are different, the approach is different. While here, for example, in the UK, I've been involved in over 10 parliamentary discussions in the House of Commons and the House of Lords about regulations, policies, Web3, NFT, blockchain, the metaverse, you name it. And the discussion is amazing. A lot of ministers are involved. And then after we leave, nothing happens. It's just a discussion. So I feel personally, I mean, for at least for the last 18 months, that Web3 communities have been taking these initiatives and they are taking the step forward and going to these legislations or seeking people, prominent people in the space to represent them on Web3 or to open conversations. But I feel that the resistance is much more from the government, especially because of the decentralization aspect, the anonymity, and a lot more reasons. And of course, this will spring up the idea of knowing your customer, and then you have anti-money laundering frameworks that haven't put in place, especially you cannot pinpoint who is doing what, terrorism as well. So it's a very broad, I'd say it's a very big debate, and I hope that we can start taking a step into that ladder one by one, rather than just going all in and saying just regulate the industry. I think there should be a framework in place where what should be regulated first, what is the priority right now, and whatnot. And you being from UNICEF, for example, I it's just my 2 cents is that why don't people start, or kids start learning coding? I mean, you find a lot of free coding classes right now everywhere for kids aged 6 and older, and this literacy and learning this language is exactly like any language that we communicate, I mean, for years to come. It's a digital weapon. And why don't we equip youth from now to understand the language of this industry, to be able to grow and thrive and expand their projects, because they have the tools that, as you were saying, they had the tools to be able to dive into this.
Thank you, Lara. And I see the hand of Ralph and then Dada, but perhaps somebody can also relate back to Wally, who asked a little bit about the structure inside those communities, how you organize yourself. So Ralph first.
I just wanted to add to what Lara was saying. So if Dada
Go ahead.
wants.
Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to talk about basically when I entered NFTs in general was around the time when our economy was collapsing here around 2020, and like the revolution was going on and all that. And basically, yeah, it was like a heartbreak, because literally you felt like the government just doesn't want to give you any future or optimistic like anything really. So like basically whenever I would go to like find a job or whatever, I'm an interior architect. I have a master's in it in like one of the best universities here in the country. So basically, the most they would give you was like $200 a month and all that, and it was complete bullshit in my opinion. So that's where I was like, I didn't want to do anything with the government or anything to do with the country. I just wanted to sell my art on a global stage and like just be done with anything. Just live here as long as no civil war happens. I'm just fine with it. Do whatever you want and all that. But now that I'm trying to get more artists into the space, because since I made that decision, my life has changed. I've featured my work all over the world on Times Square recently, and I want to give that same success to other artists. But the wall that most artists are facing is how to buy cryptocurrency here in the country, and that is the most difficult thing because most of them have to go to the black market now, meet with like someone they don't know, and like give them dollars, and they can't trust these people, and it's a very like risky thing to do. And that's the wall that most people are facing right now. So for me now, approaching the government is like approaching an ex-partner, more or less, just wanting them to let people buy cryptocurrency and do whatever they want with their own money, because putting it in like the national currency is not doing anything for them. So giving them hope into like something else, for me, like there are so many job opportunities you can get that are well paying and where you can sustain yourself for a long term and actually save up some money from it. So like the thing is, the government doesn't want you to do that because they want to keep control over you, but that's what we're trying to do. Just for them to like let people buy cryptocurrency is the one thing I feel like we need, and from there we can just take it over. And I feel like NGOs and all, different organizations helping us like create exhibitions, galleries, and all that for NFTs, we can take it from there, I feel. So yeah, just wanted to add that to the conversation. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and then I see the hand from Dara, and then Tom, and then again inviting the audience and seeing Marley.
Right. I
Yeah.
just wanted to address Boniface's question, which is in regards to the governance structures within the communities we belong to and the DAOs that I'm part of. And I just wanted to say that membership is one of the powerful tools within community building and scaling within the Web3 space. And this is because the nature of these memberships functions as investments, and members hold these for what I've seen is either community tokens or NFTs, and they hold ownership, which is basically an investment of time, money, and effort. You know, it's the promise that you give to the community that you're building, and this is what most governance structures look like and use to like bring in people into their. In many DAOs, there's like levels or like circles that structure their governance. As much as that we do call it like decentralized autonomous organization, and as much as there is like unanimous effort to like guide people, I think most of what you will see is that even though you're like 100 people with ownership and voting power, different membership tiers in many communities give way for, allow members to exist within a single community, and it opens up opportunities for like revenue generation. And it's not just everyone making decisions that they don't understand, whereas like if you're more technically advanced, it's much difficult for you to kind of input on where like creative stands. Not that you're wrong, but that's just what comes with many of these membership tiers. And a lot of them hold power in brand loyalty, and just many of these communities and even the governance structures are based on brand loyalty and just less of recurring revenue and more of like one-time investment opportunities, like long-term investment opportunities. So yeah, that's mostly what the governance structures look like. There's like instigators most of the time, and then there's the community builders, and then there's the stakeholders, there's partners. It depends really with what kind of community you're joining and what solution that you're building. So that's just my 2 cents on the governance structures that I've experienced in many of the communities I've been in.
Thank you. And I see Tom's hand, and then there's a question of Angelika. If you then want to raise the question yourself, Angelika, welcome. But Tom, and then we
thanks
step by step are closing up. Yep.
And thanks again to everyone for the really interesting responses. I completely understand that every country is existing in a different political, cultural, socioeconomic environment, and I guess that's something we've looked at. When I think about the future of Web 3.0, I can see a scenario in which countries move at very different places, at very different paces. And I actually think those countries with more developed policy environments might actually move a little bit slower than some of those with less developed policy and regulatory environments. But at the same time, you have the challenges that you're facing in Lebanon too, which are a different set of challenges. And so I can see potentially a real burst of activity in less regulated, more open markets and data. I can imagine Kenya being, I've told you I lived there for 4 years at the Silicon Savannah. There are lots of opportunities, but even there, increasingly government are getting more involved in regulation. But I can absolutely see a lot of drive coming from low and middle income countries in this space rather than necessarily upper income countries. It also strikes me that with Web 3.0, where we're talking a lot about decentralization and regulation via blockchains and that sort of thing, I wonder at times whether governments even feel a little bit threatened by it, because I think traditionally governments have played that role of fostering trust between different institutions. The idea of laws is to be able to set up trust between different parties, and this is something that Web 3.0 can really help to take to a new and different level. And so I think that's an interesting place for us to be in culturally and politically as we move forward. But I think that links, Angelika, to your question a little bit about the scaling. I can't comment on Web 3.0 and the scaling. I'm sure Lara and Ralph and Data probably can comment better. But there will undoubtedly be scaling of this kind of thing globally, the use of the internet, the use of technology to go beyond systems. And to Lara's point, there's already millions and millions of kids out there learning code. I mean, and what I love particularly is things like an organization called I Am the Code, which was founded by Mariam Jammeh, who is a brilliant activist in this space and driving and inspiring young girls from across the African continent and globally to really engage in coding. And so I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what's going to happen in this space. What will happen, I'm not sure, but something will. Back to you, Heike.
All right. Yeah, Angelika, do you want to add something as a question? But otherwise, we would say we round up now. But Angelika, go ahead.
No, thank you. And I think Tom perfectly brought it up to the point. For me, it is always the question between demand side and market side. So I would also like to bridge it, even if we have maybe a lot of educated young people somehow or are active in this kind of new segment and new possibility. Are there enough jobs, and is this matching with the? I think this is also important when you are talking with governmental agencies. So this kind of a political dimension, has this enough potential for the job creation in my country? And with the youth unemployment, is this maybe a leverage where I can bring and I invest now in this new kind of Web3 technology, I invest in there, and then I have a huge problem resolved. So I think this kind of dimension is sometimes also important to think about. I know we have it all and it is logical, but sometimes the evidence, I say it because we know it from other CCI sectors, that's the same. The evidence is not here. And sometimes in terms of other industry sectors, it needs to have sometimes more data, more statistics, more evidence to convince policymakers. This could be one piece of the puzzle. I know there are other pieces, and so I really like your contribution very much. There is, of course, they are maybe afraid that, they have it not under control. I think there are a lot of other aspects, but this aspect of evidence I won't underestimate. And because it's very new, it's not new, but it is not so clear evaluated and statistically build up, and we don't have as many studies to convince policymakers that this is a new dimension, for example, for the job problem they have in some areas. So this is a little bit my idea and question, but I think you brought it up, Thomas, and we need to dig deeper also in data collection, etc., for this new topic, and what role your community could play. I think this could be also very interesting pathway. So thank you so much. Unfortunately, I need to quit already.
Yeah, I hope you don't.
From my side, goodbye.
Thank you, Angelika, and I hope you all can stay a few more minutes because we would love to really close up now. Thanks, Angelika, and unfortunately, I have technical problems to upload this PowerPoint, which I promised to upload with all the links, but we will include that somehow later on, and that's why I'm asking you for several things. I will post a survey which we have here, and I put that in the chat. Sorry for interrupting here, but we are always encouraged to ask the audience to give us a little bit feedback, because we always, need to monitor and evaluate and ask then the donors, basically the money givers for these kind of projects, and need to prove it. So please, the audience, fill out that 5 minutes just questionnaire. You can do that later on. That was all on the PowerPoint, but I can't upload it, unfortunately. And I will also post in a minute an email address where you can send us just an email. So we will forward you the PowerPoint via the email. And meanwhile, I will ask Kira to close up with a few words, and then a last round for all of you speakers to give perhaps one word or one sentence what you would still like to address in order to give a message to the audience, to us. With the matter, what is still on your heart, I would say, and just give a one check-out round. But Kira, perhaps you can wrap up a bit, and please stay with us another 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you to all our speakers. Thanks for all the input. Thanks for the different perspectives we had in this dialogue, in this conversation. I think wrapping up, we can say that how our future will be shaped also in these concerns lays in the youth and in the possibilities for them also to individually educate themselves in organizations, helping to educate, in building more skills, and also in a global economy to survive. The skill of English, we heard it a couple of times, is super important. And as long as from the governmental side there is no goodwill in corporations, it is for organizations to support individuals, to support communities, to support startups, to add value to the space. Yes, that is what I want to say. To sum this up, I can see that Lara has her hand still up. Do you want to start with our closing round of giving a few final words, Lara?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kira. I wanted to respond to Angelika before she left, but I'll make sure that she sees this part in the recording, because she was saying that there's no support and there's no evidence yet. So the Web3 industry, and especially on top of it, DeFi, decentralized finance, is today a $1 trillion industry. So I don't know if we need more evidence than that. It's $1 trillion industry as we sit today in 2023. So that's one. Second of all, the scaling up is something that's fascinating, how to scale up, because of the open sourceness of the underlying technology, which is blockchain. Today, anyone can fork off any blockchain. And by forking, I mean taking that code and adding to it, enhancing to it, or changing to it, tweaking to it. So no one's reinventing the wheel, and everyone is passing on the torch happily. And that is a very big game changer in terms of how someone can scale up or build something on their own. It's by, you know, taking that helping hand. When people have that helping hand, and especially big organizations or big Web3 companies, and they're passing on the torch, that alone can help a lot of people scale up and, you know, find potential, I'd say. And wrapping up, just because I'm passionate about a couple of things, and one of them is in Lebanon, and especially for anyone who is watching, is tuning or watching this later, I feel that the technical jargon, the technical terms, are one of the biggest barriers to entry to Web3. And I was chairing a summit in Jordan, and they had translators. So we were speaking partly in Arabic and partly in English. And every time we spoke in English, the translators just halted because they had no idea how to translate the technical terms to Arabic. And that was a very big hurdle for them. And as I was saying, it's a barrier to entry. So one of the initiatives that I very dear to my heart, and the founders are amazing men, is called Taksir in Lebanon. It's a think tank. It's an amazing initiative, and one of their, you know, very diverse products, I'd say array of products, is called Abjad DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization with the sole focus on translating all of the technical jargon into Arabic. And they have an amazing team of certified translators and prominent people in the space. So for anyone who is looking, especially people who do not understand English, or it's not their first or second language, it's really important to shine light into initiatives and local initiatives that are not backed up by governments or anything. They are local initiatives that are springing up in order to help youth and people in entering this space. So I wouldn't say I'm doing any advertisement for them, because they don't need any advertisement. They're very well known, but I just wanted to give something for people, you know, something that's tangible that people can go on and see and start educating themselves.
Thanks, Lara. Yeah, we appreciate, especially the language barrier is a big issue in our field of working in these different countries as well. So last words, Tom, but let's go quickly through because we have 5 minutes over. Sorry for that. So Tom, do you want to put your
nothing
last
really
message?
more to Nothing really more to add, Heike, apart from to say really excited to watch this brilliant group of people and watch this space more broadly continue to evolve. I think it will absolutely open up. These things take time. They go slowly, as I said before. When you're moving a lot of people and changing attitudes and changing understandings, it will take time. But as it builds momentum, it will make some really exciting changes and will help create a lot of jobs for the most marginalized youth, which I'm really excited about. But thanks again for having me, and thanks to everyone for the conversation.
Thanks. Perhaps you can put that into UNICEF conversations more to talk about that topic. Ralph and Dada, your last words.
No, just want to thank you all for this lovely conversation. Yeah, it was great to share the stage with all of these lovely people. I followed most of you. I want to see the rest where I can follow you as well. So if there's like a place I can check out all of the links, that would be great. And yeah, thank you so much. And hopefully the Web3 space keeps on growing. And yeah, we get to the goals that we all want to reach in this space. So yeah, that's about it.
Right.
Thank
I just
you.
wanted to say thank you as well. This is a very important moment in Web3 conversations. Like, you've brought people from many different levels of knowledge and curiosity and understanding. And this is just what Web3 and the future of work looks like. So I'm really excited to have GIZ and very many international people recognize and acknowledge what we're all doing here, because that's what is important, and similarly to support. So I'm really grateful, and thank you to everyone for taking time to share the space with me. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And then I would
Thank you
also
so
say
much.
thanks a lot. Thank you for that conversation.